afternoon, everybody. I am here to talk about the Justice Education Society of British Columbia. After I yawn. I'll start after I yawn. Alright, here we go. Introduction. The Justice Education Society, or JES, is a non-profit organization based in Vancouver, British Columbia. They are active in over 19 countries and have 3 offices in British Columbia, one in Surrey, one in Vancouver, and one in Victoria. The JES also has international offices in Guatemala City. I'm probably going to butcher this one, so I'll put the proper pronunciation up on screen. Tegucigalpa, and the City of Knowledge, which is a city in Panama, called the City of Knowledge. Actually, I think it has a different name, like in Spanish, but the English translation is the City of Knowledge. I think that's dope. Oh, and they have one in Georgetown too. In general, the JES's work revolves around making justice accessible and practical for everybody who might need it. So, I'm going to have to cut this a little bit out. They have a social media presence on the main platforms, so like, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. They also have a LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is kind of for dorks, so, Their website lists various ways to support their cause, and their website talks about the various opportunities that they offer as well. And if I'm locked in on my editing here, and I've got all the sauce, the handles and their website should be popping up on screen right about now. The JES states 2 official goals on their website: promoting human rights, which they do through their international work, and protecting the fundamental rights of all peoples, which they do in their domestic work. They have 3 means, by which they further their goals. They increase the legal... Oh no. Am I recording? Yeah, we are. Okay, good. Okay, let's just try this again. The JES has 3 methods through which they further their goals. They increase the legal capability of people accessing judicial systems. So they try to educate the common man on what their rights are, how they can access the legal help that they need, stuff like that. They try to strengthen justice systems, so they work with governments to make their stuff better, judicially, if you know what I mean. I'll touch more on that later, and they try to develop digital solutions for the justice sector. So, move their legal resources online, because that's kind of what you have to do if you want to help people nowadays. And there'll be more examples of how they use those methods in the coming up sections. Anyway, intro over. I think I did pretty good. I only stuttered maybe 3 times. 4, 5, whatever. Promoting human rights, international work. For an organization that only has an intra-provincial presence, so they're only in BC, they don't do things in the Yukon or Alberta or beyond BC. They have a surprisingly active international presence. They advocate for human rights mainly in South America, but they also have some stuff in Africa. The JES's work on the international scene centers around advocacy and the promotion of human rights, which is different from its work at home. You'll see how it's different later, but, it's different. For example, in the Latin American countries such as Colombia, Panama, and Guyana, the JES has recently been working with local law enforcement and governing bodies to educate on the topic of women's rights, trying to sensitize... You should be ashamed of yourself. Trying to sensitize people to domestic violence against women and girls who have faced historically poor conditions in the region. This plays into a wider effort to combat human trafficking in Latin American regions. You can rationalize the idea there. if people understand the concept of women's rights, they're probably less likely to try and sell them. You know what I mean? They've also established education centers in places like Somaliland, and they've made websites to assist legal cases in foreign countries, like the site they created to assist victims of violence in Guatemala. The common thread connecting all of these efforts that they make is that they seem to increase, the word I use in the script is awareness, which I can't think of a better one, but it's definitely a better way to describe it than awareness. Because they do awareness at home too, but here's how I should say it. At home, they educate people on how to help themselves, like how to use the resources available to them. Abroad, they're educating people on almost how to help other people, or at least how to not hurt them, which sounds kind of messed up, but that is kind of what it is. And I say it sounds kind of messed up because it is kind of a Western organization going to these less developed countries and teaching them Western values, which we know there is a historically poor precedent for. And I mean, these are things that we all morally agree on. Like, nobody's going to go around saying that teaching people that you shouldn't traffic and kill women is a bad thing. But at the same time, you can kind of see where I'm coming from, right? Like, it's a thing. It's a thing, I'm telling you. A commitment that the JES has made is following the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, which I think is something that adds a layer of credibility to the organization. You know, like following a criteria that exists outside of their control, and especially one from a governing body as influential, especially when it's from a governing body as influential and sizable as the United Nations. The specific goals that the JES says their work contributes to are Goal 4, quality and education for all. Quality education for all, not quality and education. Christ. Number 5, gender equality. And number 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. End section. Next section. Protecting the rights of all people, their domestic work. The bulk of the JES's work is based around educating the population of British Columbia in regards to our legal and judicial framework. According to their website, they assist in one way or another over 1 million British Columbians every year. They offer their assistance through various channels, such as web seminars, in-person sessions, online courses, and digital legal resources. I am going to put this here because I feel bad not making eye contact with the camera. So it should be a little bit less noticeable if my script is right there. Anyways, while much of their work involves helping the common citizens of British Columbia, the JES also works within the system to educate justice workers and combat systemic problems within BC's justice systems. Problems such as racism, gender bias, corruption, inadequate training, and lacking resources within the courts. In this way, they improve judicial systems in BC all across the spectrum, from the consumers to the administrators. There is a quote on their page that I think well defines their stance on the topic. They say, positive, sustainable change is best achieved by improving how justice institutions operate, which I think is hype. They have a variety of projects based in British Columbia in which they tackle issues like Indigenous law and justice accessibility as a whole. Projects they have in BC include the Justice System Education Program for Indigenous Peoples, and this is a project name, but it's not going to sound like one. Building Public Confidence and Responsive Governance in Law Reform, and, next project, Making Legal Education Curricular Resources. Similar to how the UN's SDGs lended external credibility to their international operations, with their domestic affairs, the JES has committed to following Canada's 9 Justice Development Goals, or JDGs. Those goals are as follows: address everyday legal problems, meet legal needs, increase courthouse professionalism and efficiency, work together, build capability, innovate, analyze and learn, and improve funding strategies. This is 8, which means that I can't count. Anyways, through these goals, the JES maintains a certain kind of cohesion with the rest of British Columbia in their efforts to improve justice in the province. End section. Public perception and side quests. Now, unfortunately, there really isn't all that much in the way of public perception revolving around the JES. I mean, there is, obviously, they have a public Obviously, they do have a public perception, but they don't have many sources online regarding that perception. Most things that talk about how they are received come from their website itself, which obviously is not the best way to gather what people think about a thing. There are some sources that mention them and their work, but they don't usually offer opinions or perspectives. Instead, they kind of offer expository pieces on what the JES does. So like there was a article that actually Mr. Bazell found, not me, but there was an article that mentioned their work to combat human trafficking, but it doesn't give an opinion on it. It just says what's happening, which is a good kind of journalism. I mean, way to go. But there's not many ways to gauge public perception from actual sources, which is kind of an excuse to say that this next bit is going to be a bit dry. You know, my bad. Okay, so we're kind of going off of inference now, like what I can infer from the lack of sources. Possibly the best indicator I can garner of the JES reputation is the fact that they have worked with so many reputable or governmental organizations worldwide and in British Columbia. For example, those projects that I mentioned earlier, the ones in Somaliland and Latin America, were all done in conjunction with the governing bodies of those nations. Presumably, and this is not foolproof, the JES would not be given permission to operate in so many countries and assist in the judicial and educational departments of said countries if they were not legit or at least had some sort of credibility. And while it could be said that these less developed nations would be willing to take a chance on a shady organization, the same cannot be said of Canada, where the JES is based and does most of its work. Within British Columbia, the JES organizes court visits, assists educators, and as stated before, works to improve the province's judicial systems. This could not be done without the permission of the provincial government, and the fact that they are allowed to be involved in the province's justice is perhaps the most considerable boon to their perception in the public and governmental eye. Speaking of the public, there is no source for the public. Usually when you search for something, you find like a few reputable sources, and then you go to like page 2 of Google and you get all like the Reddit and Quora responses. We don't even have those. There's not the sketchy stuff. Which, to be fair, this is a kind of niche topic. It's not something that many people would go online to write their reviews of. But you'd think there'd at least be some, right? Like, you know what I mean? There should be something. It's the internet. It should have everything. But for some reason, in regard to the JES, it does not have everything. So once again, to infer the way in which the public sees the JES, I have to infer from a kind of a throwaway number that they gave, which is that they help over 1 million British Columbians each year. While I do hate to be overt, I try to be subtle in my connections. The obvious connection to be made here is that people would not bother with the JES and their resources if they did not believe that the JES could help them. Of course, there is a counter-argument, which is that perhaps there is no other equivalent resource. Maybe the JES is just the best there is, and so people are forced to settle. Kind of similar to how we have to settle for ICBC, because what else is there, right? Anyway, that's public perception. End section. Conclusion. The Justice Education Society is a surprisingly multifaceted organization. I was genuinely surprised at some points to learn about the stuff that they're doing. For example, they have an AI chatbot designed to give legal advice. And while I'm not the biggest AI fan personally, that is kind of an interesting idea, although generally it has been known that mixing AI and the law has given sketchy, at best, results. It seems like they've been trying new things since their inception. They are trying to innovate all the time, I think. They digitized, they were I think they came into existence in 1982, so they did have to go through digitization. Like they didn't start like that. And recently they've begun utilizing AI. If I had to give one impression that the JES gives me, it would be that they really try to keep up with the times. Anyways, to kind of end it off here, this is the end. I know, it's sad. I am generally a fan of what they've been doing. I think it is incredibly valuable that people know what the laws are and how they can help themselves, because as much as I hate to say it, there's not always somebody to help you. So I think if you know how to help yourself, that is one of the most valuable things that you can be given. And the JES gives people that, which is good. And obviously, it is expected that I would like these guys as the law guy, TM. But, you know, oh well. I like what I like. It is what it is. Usually, I would try to end this in some kind of clever, funny, bombastical way. But I don't know how to, and I'm tired. And school's almost over, so I think this is good. Bye-bye. Arrivederci.
Sayonara. Bonne nuit.